I was sitting in my brand new living room sipping coffee when I watched my daughter-in-law try to unlock my front door with a key I never gave her. In that single moment, every dream I had for a peaceful new chapter of my life began to unravel. My name is Eleanor Davis. I'm 64 years old, recently widowed, and like many women my age, I've been trying to rebuild a life that felt shattered after losing my husband, Richard. We had been married for 41 years. His sudden passing left me with more than grief. It left me with a sizable life insurance payout and an aching question: how do I move forward on my own? In the weeks after the funeral, my son Mark and his wife Lisa were attentive in a way they hadn't been for years. They called every day, dropped by with groceries, and fussed over me like I was too fragile to handle myself. "Mom, you need something fresh, something to look forward to," Mark said one evening, holding my hand as though I might break apart. Lisa chimed in, all warmth and sincerity, suggesting I invest in real estate, a place where the family could gather a home that would give you both security and purpose. At the time, I thought it was love. I thought they cared about me adjusting to widowhood. What I didn't realize was that they had their eyes fixed on something else entirely. Still, their words planted a seed. I began looking at houses, and when I found the Victorian on Willow Street, I fell in love instantly. The wide wraparound porch, the tall windows, the charm of a bygone era, it all spoke to me. I bought it quietly through a trust with the help of a property manager who oversaw renovations. Fresh paint, polished hardwood floors, a gleaming new kitchen, every corner transformed into the perfect home. I kept it a secret, picturing the joy of revealing it to my family. I imagined Mark's face lighting up Lisa, crying happy tears, my grandchildren running down the hallways. I pictured holiday dinners where laughter filled the dining room and Christmas mornings with everyone gathered around the tree. For the first time in months, I felt genuine excitement. But the morning I was ready to share my surprise, everything changed. What I uncovered wasn't gratitude or joy. It was something far colder, something that left me questioning not only their intentions, but the very foundation of trust between us. I called Mark that morning, picturing his surprised face, imagining us all sitting down to lunch while I revealed the surprise. "Can you and Lisa meet me for lunch? I want to show you something," I said, trying to keep the excitement from spilling into my voice. There was a pause on the other end, a careful little catch that felt wrong. "Mom," Mark said, "we're actually out looking at houses today. We found one that might be perfect for our family." He sounded practiced casual, too casual for what he was about to say next. When I asked where, he gave me the address: Willow Street. My stomach did a small, rude flip. "That's the one I've been working on," I heard myself say, keeping my voice light. I don't know why I lied. Habit, maybe old habits of protecting my child from unnecessary worry. Or maybe I was clinging to the last thin thread of surprise I'd planned. Mark's response was immediate, eager. "We think it would be perfect for my in-laws to move in with us. Lisa's parents need help." He said it like it was the most practical, natural thing in the world. When Lisa walked through the front door of the house a week later, she moved as if she already owned the place. She ran her hand over the new countertops, inspected the pantry with a look of proprietorship, and said brightly, "This is perfect. Mom, you'd have a lovely little room down the hall, cozy, easy to keep. We'd take the master." She said it with a smile that warmed her face but not her eyes. I pretended to be delighted because there's a kindness in pretending that shields you from making waves, and because I wanted to see how far they'd go. They gave me a full tour, proudly narrating plans for furniture and a nursery corner, measuring windows and debating paint swatches. It was surreal to stand in my own home and listen to them arrange my life for me, like a neatly packaged plan to be accepted. Then Lisa began to press. She folded her hands, lowered her voice to softness, and talked about finances the way people talk about weather, practical, unavoidable. "The sellers want cash," she told me. "No financing. If we're serious, we'd need a full down payment." She said it like a problem to be solved, and then she dropped something small and poisonous into the conversation. "We could use an early inheritance," she said. "Your insurance payout could take care of it." She mentioned Richard like he was a prop she could place where it would do the most work. Your husband would have wanted this for the family, she said. She wrapped sentiment around the request as if affection could sanitize a ledger. I felt the air go thin. I could have told them then that the house was mine. I could have laughed at the absurdity. Instead, I watched. I let them talk. I let them imagine. After they left, when my heart had stopped racing enough for me to think, I contacted the property manager and asked her to list the house again under the pretense that a previous offer had fallen through. It was petty, perhaps, but I wanted to see the response. It didn't take long. Mark called within the hour. "Mom," he said with a note of urgency, "there's another family putting in an offer. We have to act fast." His voice was full of that manufactured panic Lisa used so well. It was the exact pressure I had been warned about in the little pamphlets at my lawyer's office. Create urgency, force a rush decision, and the rest will fall into place. That's when I stopped pretending. The pattern was clear. They had rehearsed scripts for every objection. They were playing on memory and guilt, on the halo of Richard's name, and on the hope I had for family togetherness. I felt both foolish and furious. It wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about a concerted effort to steer my life and my money towards someone else's plan. So I decided to keep watching. I would not hand over my future because someone made a good sales pitch wrapped in emotion. I would gather evidence and hold my ground. The real test was only beginning. The final straw came one quiet afternoon when I decided to swing by Willow Street. As I turned onto the block, my heart stopped. Lisa's car was parked in the driveway. From a distance, I watched as she confidently led another woman, older, perhaps her mother, around the yard. They pointed at windows, gestured toward the flower beds, and laughed like it already belonged to them. Then Lisa reached into her purse, pulled out a key, and unlocked the front door. My front door. They stepped inside as if I were the intruder and they were the rightful owners. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, but my mind was crystal clear. That evening, I called a locksmith. Every lock was changed. I also hired a security company to install cameras at every entrance inside and out. If Lisa wanted to play games with my property, she was about to find out I could play them better. The next morning, as I sat at my kitchen table sipping coffee, my phone buzzed with an alert. The camera showed Lisa on the porch, fumbling with her key. She tried once, twice, 3 times, then stomped to the back door only to fail again. Her frustration grew until she called Mark, waving her arms angrily. I didn't wait. I dialed my son. "Mark," I said evenly, "your wife is at my house right now trying to use a key she should never have. I'm watching her on my security cameras." There was stunned silence. Finally, Mark whispered, "Mom." "What security cameras?" "The ones I had installed yesterday," I replied. "In my house. The house I own." His disbelief was almost painful to hear. When we met later that evening, he looked shaken but still tried to defend her. "Lisa just got too enthusiastic," he muttered. I stared at him. Too enthusiastic, she impersonated my financial power of attorney to trick the property manager's assistant into handing her a key. She planned to pressure me into signing the deed over using words like tax benefits and protecting assets from nursing home costs. That isn't enthusiasm. That's manipulation. That's fraud. Mark buried his face in his hands. She told me it was for the good of the family. She said if we came to you directly, you'd say no. She thought if we made it look like our idea, you'd feel better about helping. Hearing him parrot her excuses broke something inside me. This was my son, the boy I'd raised with love and honesty, repeating lies because he couldn't see past his wife's influence. My heart ached with disappointment. I leaned forward, my voice steady. "Mark, listen carefully. This house is mine. I bought it, I renovated it, and I will not be tricked into giving it away. If Lisa wants a home, she can find one she can afford. But my future, my dignity, and your father's legacy are not for sale." The room went silent. For the first time in months, I felt strong. After that night with Mark, the calls from Lisa began almost immediately. Every afternoon, her number lit up my phone. At first, she tried the gentle approach, apologies, excuses, long sighs about misunderstandings. When that didn't soften me, she turned to sobbing pleas. Her voice cracked with desperation, but I had the unsettling sense that even her tears were calculated. Then one day, she played her strongest card. "Eleanor," she whispered between shaky breaths. "I didn't want to tell you this way, but I'm pregnant." For a moment, my breath caught. The idea of a new grandchild should have filled me with joy, but the timing made it feel like a weapon, carefully deployed to break down my defenses. She spoke about morning sickness, about stress harming the baby, about how they needed more space for the future. The unspoken message was clear: if I truly loved my son and this unborn child, I'd hand over my house. That night, I sat alone with Richard's photo beside me. I traced the frame with my finger and asked the empty room, "What would you think of this, my love?" Our son swayed into lies by his wife. Richard had always been steady, practical, a man of integrity. He would have told me to stand firm to protect what we'd worked for. The ache of missing him cut deep, sharper than it had in months. The next morning, I met with a lawyer. I laid out everything: the impersonation of financial authority, the stolen key, the false stories designed to pressure me. He listened carefully, his expression grave. "Mrs. Davis," he said, "this isn't just family drama. What your daughter-in-law has done qualifies as potential identity theft, fraud, and trespassing. You need to document every detail. Keep your messages, save the recordings, back up your security footage. If you want, you can press charges." I shook my head. Not yet. I wasn't ready to drag the law into my family, but I wanted my bases covered. This was no longer just about keeping my house. It was about protecting my dignity and, frankly, my sanity. A week later, Lisa appeared on my doorstep. Her face was pale, her clothes rumpled. For once, she didn't look in control. She sat stiffly on my sofa, eyes darting around like a cornered animal. "I'm sorry," she started quickly. "I handled things wrong." She admitted more than I expected their rent was overdue. Mark's business was sinking. She hadn't worked in years. They were drowning in debt. But even as she confessed, she wrapped it in self-justification. "I only did it for the family," she insisted. "I thought if I could make it seem like your idea, you'd feel good about helping us." It wasn't remorse. It was a last-ditch sales pitch. Her words weren't about accountability. They were about convincing me to see her schemes as noble sacrifices. I stood steadying my voice. "Lisa, you'll find your own home without my money. I won't enable manipulation anymore." Her face crumpled, but I didn't waver. I had spent too many years smoothing over conflicts, too many years convincing myself that peace was worth the cost. This time I chose differently. This time I chose myself. And in that choice, I finally felt free. 6 months later, my life had found a new rhythm, quiet, steady, and finally my own. My Victorian home no longer felt like the center of a family battle. It felt like the safe haven I had once dreamed it could be. I spent mornings in the garden coaxing roses and tomatoes to life, afternoons at the local book club with neighbors who welcomed me without judgment, and evenings on the porch watching the sun slip behind the trees. For the first time in years, I felt surrounded by genuine kindness. My relationship with Mark, though scarred, began to mend. He took the step of joining family counseling, and week after week he called me on Sundays. Some conversations were awkward, others tender, but each one was honest. I could hear the sincerity in his voice, a humility I had not heard in years. He was trying, and that meant more than empty apologies ever could. As for Lisa, our paths only crossed when I visited my newborn granddaughter. I remained polite, keeping the focus on the baby. She too stayed civil, though I could sense she still believed I had overreacted. That distance suited me. I no longer carried the burden of trying to fix her. Not long ago, my lawyer uncovered that Lisa's scheme wasn't unique. Her own grandmother had been pressured into signing over her house years earlier, a chilling reminder that this pattern wasn't an accident, but a family tradition. Realizing I had broken free of that toxic cycle filled me with relief and resolve. And that brings me to the lesson I want to share with you. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is self-respect. Age does not make us powerless. It gives us the wisdom to protect what we've built and the right to demand dignity. Family should mean love and respect, not manipulation or control. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever faced betrayal or pressure from those closest to you, I hope you'll share your experience in the comments below. And please don't forget to follow Real Her Stories, like and share this video so that more women know they are never alone. We all deserve respect. We all deserve love.